Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Let's talk about TeslaBot and why TeslaBot is another reason why Tesla is the next Tesla. While Tesla is going to keep going up in tremendous value, the value creation in Tesla, the stock price is going to go up and up and up. I was planning to do a series of models showing how TeslaBot translates into Tesla's revenue, profits, market cap, and share price. But before I get into that, I want to talk about the individual bot and what economic value it generates. So are you ready for that? Let's go. For starters, listen to what Dave Lee has to say about TeslaBot and its role.
I think Tesla has a very good chance of being at the forefront of solving AGI. And then this bot, if you think about the bot, how many iterations are possible with this bot in the future? It's like endless. Think about it. In 50 or 100 years, are they still going to be improving on this bot or not? Obviously they are, right?
Yeah.
It's just the most mind-boggling project ever, I think, in terms of its potential. There's no cap to its potential. And also economically wise, if you think about the bot probably has the biggest economic potential of any single product ever invented in the history of the world, because it's disrupting human labor and all of human labor, because it's a generalized artificial intelligence vision. Right now it's not, but it's going to get more and more generalized and capable to do almost anything that a human can do physically, but also eventually like mental capacity wise too. So we're talking about the biggest disruptive product ever.
So I don't think Dave could be more emphatic about how important TeslaBot is. That this is this big driver of value creation, the biggest value creation in history, tremendous impact. So let's talk about it on an individual basis. We go back to what Elon talked about. Elon talked about how the bot would initially at least do work that is repetitive, boring, and dangerous.
Navigate through a world built for humans and eliminate dangerous, repetitive, and boring tasks.
I like to think of it very simply as, let's imagine, skip the dangerous part for a second, we're going to get to that. Let's imagine you have a typical $15 an hour worker at a Burger King, at a assisted living facility, whatever. It's some relatively low-end job. Let's say the minimum wage is $15 an hour, and you're going to use TeslaBot to, quote, displace human labor. I don't see that TeslaBot is going to take one individual job that one particular worker is doing and say, okay, that guy's out of work. The way I see it is there are tasks that each worker does. Some of those tasks bot will be able to do fairly soon, and some of those tasks it might take bot a while to get to. Now you've got a workplace, let's say it's a Burger King. I worked at Burger King when I was a kid, so I'm gonna use Burger King. And let's say you have an individual worker. I didn't just do one thing. I flipped burgers, I cooked fries, I ran the cash register, I brought stuff from here to there, I took garbage out. There's a lot of different individual tasks. So let's suppose you have 10 workers at Burger King, and the bot is able to do enough tasks to displace one worker. It's not that they're doing all the work that that one worker does, but now the bot is able to do the work of one worker. And so you have 9 humans working and one bot. So you replaced $15 an hour of labor. A typical worker works 2,000 hours a year. 40 hours a week times 50 weeks is 2,000 hours. So that's $30,000 of pay. Keep in mind, the employer spends more on the employee than just what the wages are. There's workers' comp, there's taxes, and other things that the employer pays that the worker doesn't see. So it's really $40,000 a year that the value that the robot is doing over what the worker did. So you get $40,000 a year. But the other thing is that bot is probably going to be able to do at least 2 shifts. So instead of replacing one worker for that one worker's shift, really the bot is replacing 2 workers. And that's $80,000 in work. And arguably you add weekends, and really there's maybe 3 shifts that the bot is doing, and you could get easily to $120,000 of value from one bot on a $15 an hour job, which is sort of the low end of our economy. So one bot does $120,000 of work in 1 year. The bot probably lasts longer than 1 year. Let's say they design the bot and engineer the bot so the bot is good for 10 years on average. Well, now you've just generated $1.2 million worth of work out of one bot. That's the plus side of the equation. I'm not even getting into when the bot does higher value labor, which I'm going to cover in a minute. But now here's another question. How much does it cost to build a bot? A Tesla Model 3 weighs about 4,000 pounds. A bot is supposed to weigh 125 pounds. So just in terms of material content, the content that goes into the bot, there's a lot less material, a lot less molecules going into that bot. There's some complexity, there's other issues, but my opinion, I think this is fairly solid, is that bot is going to cost a lot less to produce in volume than Model 3. Model 3 probably cost Tesla, let's say $25,000 to produce. Bot should easily cost less than $10,000 when you're manufacturing it at scale. The initial cost of building the first bot will be $1 billion or more. But once you're producing them at scale, you're producing them by the millions, an individual bot is going to cost less than $10,000 to build, and I think probably less than $5,000 to build. So let's say it's $10,000 to build it, and it produces $1.2 million of work. The cost essentially becomes irrelevant. This thing is the margin on bot is insanely high. And that's just with the $15 an hour job. Now, let's go a step further and say we're going to have the bot do roofing. There's a couple of reasons why I focus on roofing. Roofing is dangerous work because if you fall off a roof, you're going to get hurt and possibly die. If a bot falls off a roof, then maybe it survives better, or maybe you just replace the bot. Since the bot only costs $10,000 to build, not a big loss. Saving human life is important. Also, the work of doing roofing, there's a lot of repetitive, boring tasks. You have a roof with, let's say, 1,000 tiles. I'm making up the number. Maybe it's 500, maybe it's 5,000, I don't know. But let's say it's 1,000 tiles. You've got to place 1,000 tiles in place, and it's largely the same task over and over and over again. It's boring, it's repetitive, it's hot up there. There's all kinds of reasons why this is a crappy job for humans. Humans probably get paid more than $15 an hour to do roofing work. So again, there's work that a roofer does that is more complex than just putting tiles in place. But if the bot just puts tiles in place, and let's say they had 10 guys working on the roof, and they're able to cut it down to 9 guys working on the roof, and they were making $40 an hour, and they were costing the employer $50 an hour, that's $100,000 a year that the bot is generating on one shift. Now, you're probably not doing night shifts on roofing, so maybe you're down to 2 shifts. You're still getting, in weekends, you add it together, maybe you're getting 2 shifts, so you're getting $200,000 in value out of bot a year for 10 years. You got $2 million generated. And you can look at this and say, over time, as Dave was pointing out, bot is going to learn. The machine learning, the AI, the training, there'll be future chipsets and future hardware versions that will be even better, and it will start being able to do more and more complex tasks that generate more value for the employer, the person who's hiring the bot. This is where you get to a bot, let's say generating let's say a bot generates $1 million in value over the life of the bot. All right, now you are the employer who has this particular job that needs to be done, and you can eliminate one employee on each shift by hiring a bot, by buying a bot instead. How much are you, as the employer, how much is Burger King willing to pay for a bot that replaces all that labor? Well, if it's going to generate $1 million worth of work over the course of its life, they're probably going to pay at least a few $100,000 for that bot. So it costs Tesla $10,000, let's say, to build the bot, and they sell it for $300,000 to Burger King. They sell it for $500,000 to the roofing company. It's all margin. It's all profit. And then you just get to this question of, well, how many bots could they produce? Well, there's like over 100 million workers in the United States. There's easily 1 billion workers around the world that bot could replace. And I want to stress one point here. There's this perception that I would say primarily leftists and statists and socialists believe that when bot replaces a worker, the worker doesn't find other work. We have a long history in our society in human society of technology coming along, freeing people from doing certain work, and those people find other things to do. There is always more work to be done. Creating a bot that takes one job does not eliminate the job for another person. It creates efficiency that frees up capital that allows the creation of more jobs. We have had advancing technology for well over 100 years, rapidly advancing technology, and it always creates more and better jobs. So bot taking over the flipping burger job frees up the burger flipper to do something that adds more value. ATMs freed up bank tellers to do higher value added work, and they actually created bank teller jobs. The idea that technology destroys jobs is a very popular one, and it's also a very false one. I just want to ditch that idea for a second and just say, you know what? Putting bots in place to free up humans from doing the worst work creates opportunities for humans to do better work because now that employer is saving money and they have more money to spend on something else. Now maybe the consumer is getting lower prices. It frees up money for the consumer who can now spend money somewhere else. And that creates more work that can be filled by human labor. I disagree with the notion that this is going to destroy jobs. But let's get back to Tesla. So the question is, what's the potential for Tesla in terms of generating revenue for the company as a whole when they start producing bots? So let's just start with, suppose Tesla produces 1 million bots a year and they sell the bots for $100,000. 1 million bots, $100,000, that's $100 billion in revenue. Now, the math I just did before, the bot is clearly worth more than $100,000 to the buyer. It's worth $300,000, maybe $500,000 when it's doing the lowest value work, the $15, $20 an hour work. It's already worth $300,000 or $400,000. So really, you're talking about $300 or $400 billion in revenue on 1 million bots. Well, by 2030, Tesla is planning on making 20 million cars a year. They can easily make more than 1 million bots a year. I think they're going to be able to make more than 20 million bots a year. Maybe not by 2030. I don't think they're going to have scaled production of bot by 2030 that high. I think production of bots starts in 2026 or 2027. But once they get there, it's going to scale. It's going to produce tremendous value. And I could easily see somewhere down the road, Tesla's producing, let's say, 100 million bots. 100 million bots times $100,000 a bot is $10 trillion in revenue, which is almost all margin. It's almost all profit. So $10 trillion in profit. You can check my math. I'm pretty sure I'm right. 100,000 times 100 million. 1 million times 100,000 is 1 million times 100,000 is 100 billion. Add 2 more zeros, you get 10 trillion. $10 trillion in revenue, which is basically $10 trillion in gross profit because the cost of bot is so low. So that gives you some sense of where this is going. Now, I think there's different business models for bot. There's the business model where Tesla sells bots to businesses and or consumers. That's one business model. There's a business model where Tesla sells bots in fleets to fleet buyers who then lease out the bots to customers. And then there's a third model, which is effectively the robo-taxi model of bot, where Tesla builds the bots and keeps them, and you can order a bot on an hourly basis. And a bot shows up at your house and does what work you needed to do. And if you're a business, the bot shows up at your business and does what you needed to do. And the reality in the future is probably going to be some combination of all three, that some businesses will just buy a set number of bots for their own work. Some businesses will buy bots in fleets and lease them out in locations that Tesla doesn't cover with its own fleet. And Tesla will have its own fleet of bots that it leases out to customers of various sorts. A lot of different ways that can manifest itself. And I'm going to do models in the future in the next week or two going through, here's the model where Tesla sells bots. Here's the model where Tesla sells bots to fleets and the fleets operate the bots and Tesla gets a revenue share from the lease. And here's a model where Tesla just maintains its own fleet and lets them out as the equivalent of robo-taxis. So that's where we're going in the future. But I think you can see the value created by one bot is really substantial. But when you multiply it by 1 million bots, by 10 million bots, by 100 million bots, and then you say, well, what if Tesla builds a fleet of hundreds of millions of bots? You can see where this is going to just a tremendous, tremendous revenue and profit story for Tesla that is scales way beyond what I was talking about for robotaxi before. And you combine it with robotaxi and you just get this ridiculous company. And that's why Tesla is the next Tesla. T-shirts at elonbits.com. That's why Tesla's stock could easily go to $10,000 a share, $50,000 a share, $100,000 a share or higher. So buying Tesla at $1,000 a share now, this is not professional investment advice. This is my opinion. This is why I bought and hold Tesla and I'm not selling. And I'm actually getting ready to buy another chunk of Tesla stock in the next couple of months. This is why I'm doing it. If you see it the same way, do your own analysis, do your own research. It seems obvious to me. But please check out the T-shirts at elonbits.com. Support this channel on Patreon. Check out my political channel, The Daily Lie. Links to all that in the description below. Support, and thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters. Join the channel on YouTube, and thank you so much for watching.